Hey y'all, it's your girl Chef Kyra and welcome back to another episode of New York Eats. Welcome to my food channel where we talk about everything nice, sugar and spice, baby. You already know what it is. Now for this episode, oh what a time it is to make some delicious pie. So for this episode, I'm going to teach you guys how to make a delicious, just delicious, y'all, pumpkin pie. And the custard is just going to be, it's just going to be creamy. It's going to be good. It's going to be where it's at, where it's supposed to be, right? So let's just get started. I'm going to post up the ingredients list for a quick sec, and then after that we're just gonna get right into the procedure. So let's go. Don't mind me, to be honest, like I'm so tired. It's been a long day, it's hot, the weather's weird. Should be cold and like snowing by now, but where are we? We're giving spring weather. We're not even, I don't even know what's going on. So let's just get started. Let's get into it. Let me teach you how to make a delicious pie so that you could bring it for Thanksgiving, Christmas, just any time of the year really, because it's that good. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do, or what we're gonna get started on, is the pie dough. Now I'm going to show you how to make a pie dough from scratch. We are going to be using the 3-to-1 ratio method. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have 3 cups of flour, 2 cups of fat, any fat of your choice. I'm choosing butter for this episode. And then it's going to be 1 cup of water. Now also I want to let you know, for me, whenever I make pie dough, I kind of eye the water. I don't really necessarily use like the full cup, so we're definitely gonna be able to see what I'm talking about later on. This ratio is like heaven because it makes the perfect pie dough. Your pie dough comes out flaky, it's buttery, it's delicious all together, y'all. And I learned this ratio when I was in my first set of schooling, when I was attending my vocational school in Manhattan. So it goes to tell you and show you how long I have like kept this ratio in my back pocket, and to be exact, it's been since 2016 that I've had this little golden nugget, and I'm sharing it with y'all for this episode. So let's just get into making this pie dough. Now if you just want to be lazy and not make your own pie dough, that's fine. I mean, you know, your pie be okay, but it won't be as good if you don't make a fresh pie dough. So we're gonna start off with that, and yeah, and then if you don't want to learn how to make a pie dough, just skip past this part of the video. All right. Also, while using this style of recipe, you can also do for a smaller batch. So this, me doing it by cups, it's gonna get you about 2 pie crusts. If you need a smaller batch of pie dough, I would recommend doing 3 ounces of flour, 2 ounces of fat, and 1 ounce of water. So I have my sticks of butter. This is gonna equal 4 cups, so I have 4 sticks. And it's just some salted butter that I got from Walmart. And basically what we're gonna do is we are going to basically cut our butter into smaller pieces. You also want to make sure that your butter is cold, because we're going to be cutting the fat into the flour, which creates a flaky crust. So if you guys have ever wondered, like, oh my gosh, like, yo, I love a croissant, girl.
Ça va pas, non, t'as vu comment tu parles? Un croissant? Pas un croissant?
Croissant.
Un croissant!
Girl, and just wonder how many, like how you get so many flaky layers to the, you know, croissant. It's just like because we cut the fat into the flour, y'all. It's all about the butter, baby. So with this small stick, I'm just gonna cut it in half, and then I'm gonna cut my halves in half. And this part is like messy, y'all, and it can be very like tedious. So kind of like that. So you want about like 4 sticks, and then we're gonna take those 4 sticks and cut them into small chunks and have like nice little cubes. Now for this, you don't have to make sure that they're perfect. Just cut them up, baby girl. Just cut them up. All right. And that's what you want to do for the butter. Now, being that I have salted butter, I don't really want to put too much extra salt. So I'm just going to do about 1 tablespoon of some iodized salt. And then we also want our dough to have a touch of sweetness. So I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of sugar. Okay. Then we're going to get our handy dandy whisk, and we're just going to mix that together. Now that we have our sugar and our salt evenly distributed within the bowl of flour, we're gonna start to add our butter. I had to pop my butter in the fridge because like it started to melt on me. So if that does happen to you while you're cutting it, just cut it all up, pop it in the freezer real quick just so that it can kind of like solidify, and then you can just take it back out when you're ready to add the butter in. I'm telling y'all, it's like, it's crazy how warm it is, and it's not even supposed to be like warm like this. It's bananas. So I have my potato masher. This is what I'm gonna use for now. You can also use a regular like fork, so I'm gonna get that as well, because that's usually what I use as well. And so basically, this is what your cubes of butter should look like. So this is all of that delicious butter, and we're just gonna add this in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in batches, but you can just toss them all in and get your cute little cubes of butter in there. And now we are just gonna start to work these cubes of butter into the flour. So what you want to do is just kind of smash the butter. And a big reason why you cut up the butter before you add it to the flour, because it just makes it easier to work it into the flour. If you were to just throw whole sticks of flour into the, whole sticks of butter into the flour, there won't be a good consistency. So I just use my little potato masher, scoop off any excess butter, and you want to do this until you get smaller pebbles of butter. So you want to get, work the butter into the flour until it's like little pea-sized balls of flour. So I'm gonna also show you what it should look like after it's all said and done. But like I said, about this size, y'all. So I'm gonna get to the hard part, but it's gonna be so worth it, y'all. This is basically what you want your flour to look like, and it should also feel like wet sand. You may have some parts that are still kind of dry, but as long as most of it is basically feels like wet sand, that's fine. And you will end up having like little chunks that are a little bit bigger. It's not that big of a deal. As you keep going, the butter is going to soften, And yeah, so now we're just gonna add some water and we're gonna put the dough together. So for this part, I recommend having cold water. So it can be tap water. You want to be really bougie about it, you can always do bottled water or filtered water. I'm just gonna do tap. And so when you start out, you just want to start out with just enough to wet everything and start combining. You don't want to make it overly wet because then your dough will be too wet and it won't come out correctly. So now that I have my dough pretty wet, I'm just going to start to gently work the dry parts of the flour and butter mixture into itself, right? And then once it starts to get dry, just rotate it and bring that wet dough out to kind of scoop the dry dough up, or dry parts of the dough. Like I said, this part is like really messy, and you're also gonna need like excess flour to, one, help clean your hands, as you can see, because this is really messy, and two, to kind of coat the outside of the dough so that it's not sticking to everything. So I just want to bring that up close so that you guys can see what it looks like. And then once I'm done putting it all together, I'm going to bring it back closer to the camera so that you guys can see the texture of the dough fully. Now if you want, for this part, you could always wear some gloves if you're the type of person that doesn't like getting stuff like this all in your hands. And basically what I'm doing is I have a scooping motion, and then I press in, scoop, and press in. And basically what I'm doing is, or the terminology, the professional terminology that we would use in the kitchen, is we're kneading the dough. But you don't want to over knead the pie dough, because if you do, it'll work the gluten within the flour way too much, and it's now going into the area of bread, and you don't want that. So you just want to mix it enough until everything is well combined. And being that the dough is like really nice and soft and malleable, and now as you can see, the more that you continue to keep mixing it, the less dough that you'll have on your hands. And so now I'm just going to put some flour on the cutting board and a little bit on my hands. And I'm going to scoop this dough out. And like I said, guys, this amount, or this amount of dough yields 2 pie crusts. So you just multiply the recipe as needed. And like I said, I'm just going to add more flour. And don't be afraid to get messy. This is the part that's like really fun for me. I love making dough from scratch. And I just feel like this part of it is also really fun because you can definitely get your kids, you know, in the mix. And, you know, kids love to, you know, mess with messy things. So it's great. So now you just want to kind of work the dough a little bit more. Not too much, like I said, just nice and gentle. Okay. And usually what we like to do is cup the dough. So basically what I'm doing is taking my hand and pushing it up against the dough and cupping it in, with cupping the dough within itself. I can't talk tonight, y'all. I'm just like, if you couldn't tell, I'm so tired. Like, I literally had to take some medicine because my head is hurting. But because I love you guys and I want you guys to have good content, your homegirl is here. Right? So, like I said, this yields about 2 pie crusts. 3 if you really want to push it. And like I said, this flour is to help keep everything put together. Just want to pat it and make it nice and pretty. And y'all, this is what a delicious pie dough looks like. So we're gonna put this in the freezer to let it rest and solidify. And it's perfect. Now you don't want to hold it for too long, because remember, you still have cold butter. And if you look at it, you're gonna see, I don't know if you guys can see it on camera, but there's like, when you look at your dough, there's gonna be ripples within the dough, like little white ripples within the dough, and that's your butter. So that's a good sign. You definitely want that, so don't freak out if you see something like that. So like I said, you want to get this in the freezer. Don't hold it in your hands for too long, because your body temperature does melt the dough and melt the butter in the dough, and you don't want that. So you don't want to put any other, sorry y'all, I gotta get a Ziploc bag. So we don't want to put any oil on the outside of this dough. If we were making like bread or just a different type of dough, then we would put oil on the outside, because it would be more, I guess, tacky, I guess would be the word. So just got a nice gallon bag, and I'm gonna stick this inside just like that. And see, already, because it's been in my hand for so long, there's like little pieces of the dough like kind of melting off. I'm gonna Ziploc that, let some of the air out, and I'm just gonna stick this in the freezer, and then we're gonna get started on our custard, or the pie filling. Alright y'all, so now it's time to make the custard. So I have some brown sugar, white sugar, cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger powder, cornstarch, a touch of black pepper, and yeah, that's pretty much it as far as our dry spices. So I'm gonna mix this all together. Oh, and a touch of salt. Let me not forget that. So I'm gonna mix this all together so that it's nice and evenly combined. I have that nice and evenly mixed. I'm going to add my eggs. Once all of that is mixed together, we're gonna let that sit and set it off to the side. For this next part, I've just added just a cute little tab of butter, and I'm gonna let that melt down. I'm gonna put a couple of cloves in here. No, not that many, because cloves are pretty strong, and we got a lot of spices working with us. So about that much. So I have about 2, 4, 6, 8. So 9 cloves. I'm gonna add that into the butter, and then we are also going to add a full stick of cinnamon. Now, for those of you who have never seen cinnamon in its raw natural form, this is what it looks like. And yeah, it's a cute little thing. So I'm just gonna throw that in as well. And basically what we're doing is just activating both of the spices and just getting them going. And we're just toasting them a little bit just to, you know, get that fragrance going, and also, you know, just wake them up and have them come alive. And then I also have a mixture of the milk and heavy cream, so I'm just going to set that there temperature, because we don't want our butter to burn. And like I said, we're just toasting these spices, getting them a little activated. And then we're going to steep our milk basically. So you're just going to have this on a low temp, warm it up, and let all of those spices just penetrate the milk, and this is just gonna make your filling taste like 10 times better. Also, PSA, when you're cooking or warming up cinnamon, it tends to open up on you, which is a good thing, because then that's a good sign that everything is doing what it's supposed to do and you're toasting everything up. So I don't know if you guys can really see, but it's now starting to like unfold. So now, because we have all of that going and everything is nice and toasted and fragrant, now I'm just gonna add my milk. And I'm just gonna mix this around. And of course, when we pour this into our egg mixture with the cinnamon, you know, the ground cinnamon and all of those dry ingredients that we have over there, I want these raw spices to go inside the mixture, because then it just won't taste good, y'all. So we're just gonna let this steep for about, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes. And you also want to watch your milk, because you don't want it to burn and become overheated and then it gets all weird on you. So I'm just gonna let that do its thing, and now we're gonna get to the next part, which is the pie dough and getting our pie crust ready. Alright, y'all, so unfortunately my card is full on my camera, so we switching over to my iPhone, but y'all still getting good quality content. So I rolled out the dough. This is what it looks like. Now we're just gonna cut the edges. I'm gonna put parchment paper, and then I have a mixture of beans and rice, and then we're gonna put that on top of the parchment paper. Fill it up to the brim, stick it in the oven, and par bake it for 10 to 15 minutes. Then after that, or well, more like 5 to 10 minutes. Then after that, we're gonna pull it out. We're gonna add our pumpkin pie custard mixture, and we're gonna slap it back in the oven, and then it's all set, y'all. All right, so let's just do that. So I have my handy dandy knife, and I like to leave a little bit of excess dough on it, just because it does shrink while you par bake, so you don't want to miss out on any dough and have your pie shrink down on you too much. So I just leave quite a bit of excess dough, and then, like I said, because this recipe makes about 2 full pie tins of dough, the other half of the dough is cut and it's in the freezer. So we're just gonna continue to shave off some of that excess dough, but we still, like I said, want to leave enough. So this is what it should look like, where it's covering the rim. So you got maybe about, like, I don't know, a centimeter of dough, excess dough, because this is gonna shrink, and like I said, you want to be able to have a nice pie dough, so a pie crust. So what I'm doing is just crimping the edges. If you don't want to do that, basically what I'm doing is just pinching 2 fingers, pinch, and you can just take your thumbs and go around, lift the dough, bring it up and towards you, and then pinch your fingers with your thumbs like that. Or if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can do it the old-fashioned way and use a fork and crimp around the edges. to this next part. We are going to add our pumpkin puree. We're just gonna add a nice can of pumpkin puree. And get all that pumpkin out, y'all. And now we're just gonna mix that pumpkin puree into our mixture. Okay, and this is the consistency that you want your base to look like. Now don't worry, I know you probably are like, oh my gosh, my mixture is so loose, or why is it so loose? Because it's like a custard, and before a custard becomes a custard and thickens up, it's loose. I am also going to par bake the pie, and so we're gonna par bake. So we're par baking so that, because as you can see, this mixture is very wet, it's very loose, and if you were to put this with a raw pie dough, your pie is not going to come out correctly. So your crust is going to not have that flakiness and have a good body to it, and it's going to be mushy because this is wet and you have your pie dough and it just won't cook properly. So we're going to set this all to the side, and then I'm going to show you guys how to par bake the pie and what we're gonna do for that step. I know it looks like hella messy right now, but what we have here is our rice and bean mixture, and our edges of the pie is trimmed. So now I'm gonna par bake this for about 7 to 8 minutes. And like I said, this par baking method helps your pie to cook properly, and also so that your crust isn't like soggy and gross. So you want to make sure that it fills up to the rim, and you can just keep this on hand and label it pie crust, like par bake rice and beans, or whatever you end up using. You can use rice or beans, or you can use both. This is just what I had on hand from my last baking session, and this is just going to go in the oven now. So this is the pie. Like I said, I know it's looking pasty, right? But we're gonna stick this in the oven and let this cook off. And that's about how much you want it to fill up the pie crust. You don't want it to be overfilled, because then it could just run over, and you don't want that because it is gonna rise a bit while it's baking. So let's get this bad boy in the oven. Backing up the oven to 375, and that's where we're gonna bake it on for about 25 minutes to half an hour. And if you guys have ever wondered, like, how do bakeries, or when you go to the store, like, how do we get that beautiful brown golden crust? And what we do is we just use an egg wash. So it's just some eggs and a touch of water. So I'm just gonna now just paint my crust so that it's not looking pasty when it comes out the oven. And this is just gonna help that crust to get nice and crispy, have that beautiful color. And you just wanna paint it on real good. Y'all, I mean, when I tell you this pie, like, it's gonna be fabulous. And if you wanna spruce it up, you wanna make it a little extra fancy, you could always add a little sugar and cinnamon mixture, right? Put a little sugar, put a little cinnamon together, sprinkle that on a crust to make it a little fancy, add a little extra flavor. What's your flavor? Tell me what's your flavor, right? And that's pretty much it.
This ain't what you want.
Project
This ain't what you want. This ain't what you want. 1600 block. I just wanna rock. I just wanna I just wanna rock. Body yada yada. Shorty got that body yada yada. Hit it once, no time. Side up, fuck, you gon' kill me. Stand on my money, don't know my shit.